Hi there, Nat Daite here, and welcome back to another video. So in today's video, I'm going to be breaking down a solution that I have made to a problem that every business is going to have to encounter when they're doing cold outreach, okay? And the problem is going to come when you start to do things at scale, okay? Every company, every business doing B2B outreach, they're going to encounter this problem, which is data cleaning and data handling, a very boring problem that you do not want to do manually. When you're sending, 500 emails a day, cleaning things and sorting through all those spreadsheets and all that data takes a lot of time, very energy draining, and it doesn't take a lot of brain power to do so, but why do it when you can automate it away? So today I'm going to be walking through a bit of code I've made, me and AI obviously have made, to solve this problem and never have to do it again, basically. Now, this is something that we provide in the AOE platform for all of our clients. Why would they have to get used to a VSP or VPS or server, a virtual private server, and have to, install snippets and things like that, JavaScript? Even with AI, it takes a lot. There's definitely a learning curve with that stuff. So why would I make them do it on their own? We can literally just provide it for them. If you don't know, every one of our clients has a virtual private server that they can use themselves, pre-installed with a bunch of automations, and actually very, very sophisticated automations that we've been working on for many months, over like 6 months now. So they all get automation. This is just a really simple one that saves me a bunch of time and saves them a bunch of time as well, that I'll show you today. So essentially, when you have a large list of companies and company names, or any kind of data with words in it, names, company names, business owner names, for example, that data often doesn't come in a nice, neatly packaged form with all the company names, the first part capital letter and the rest not capital letters. Often from these data sources, or wherever you get your data from, some of the names can be all capitalized, or some can have emojis, or some can have random apostrophe or random punctuation in it. And that is horrible, because if you think about it, when you're sending emails or messages at scale and there's a random bit of a punctuation in there that is only found from the data source, then if you're sending that to companies and they see the message says, "Hi, Attic installers, GIF emoji or GIF smiley face, capital letters, found in West End, London," and that doesn't look real, doesn't look like a human sent that. You only get those kind of mistakes when it's cold and it's done at scale. So you want to be able to solve these problems and not have to lose those leads and have prospects lose leads. Essentially, you're literally losing leads. If you think about just pure raw data as gold ore, or as gold mixed with dirt that is straight out of the mine or whatever source you got the leads from, you want to do things to refine that gold and to remove the impurities, like random gifts. You want to do things to refine that data, which is essentially gold. It is, because after a whole system and a whole process, your outreach process, then that eventually turns into money, a transaction. They get what they want, you get what you want. Right? So we need to refine that. This is one small part of the process when it comes to refining that data that I'm going to share with you today. So if we think about all the different variations of company names that we can find, there's tons that we have to consider if we're going to make an automation to do this. Now, one thing to consider, that you could use AI to do this, but you could also use code. And code for this task in particular, I think, is way better, because people underestimate how robust and how flexible you can make code. The flexibility code allows for is perfect for this. It's just a small amount of text, and you just have to take account of all the different variations. So AI for this task isn't necessary at all. Yeah, so if we think about the different variations, we can get a company name. Here's an example. Here we have hyphenated names. If we have Alpha Dental and then Modern Dental Center, we obviously don't want to say, "Hi there, Alpha Dental Center, Modern Dental Center." You don't want to do that. So you want to remove those parts after a hyphen. Another version is brackets, for example, or parentheses. So stuff inside there, so trading as BH services or formerly Metro Builders. Often you get these kind of parentheses and information inside of brackets from data sources, wherever you get the data sources, and we don't want to have this in our outreach. Once again, it ruins all of your metrics, basically. Different versions, more stuff inside of brackets, LTD or incorporated, these kind of things. Also inside of brackets, you want to remove that. But legal suffixes without brackets, when they're not in brackets, you want to remove those as well. They can be capitalized after a comma, with a full stop at the end, co, PLC, all these different variations you want to be able to remove. You need your automation to remove, which is what I've built. The prefixes, you don't want to have you don't want to have the country. You get that as well often in lead sources and databases. Email at the end. I've never seen that from a lead source. But if you get a really crappy or an unconventional lead source, not say crappy, unconventional lead source, which is usually good, because that means not everyone is targeting it, so that's no problem. But if you do get an unconventional lead source, then it removes emails as well. All capitals, obviously, you get that very often when the company name is in all caps, so you don't want to have that. Random or messy punctuation, it removes that as well. So these are just a bunch of different variations that the code I've built fixes, and that all of our clients at AOE Partners have access to. So this is the code that deals with all of that, all of those different variations and more, and cleans your lists, making them ready for cold outreach. So the first part literally just loads all the items and skips empty names entirely. Then we have the next part, which smartly handles information after dashes and tangles. Then that part preps it for the next part, which removes generic descriptive words like home, expert, professional, a bunch of different generic examples. There's more on the full code, but there's just some examples of things which have been marked for removal, and then we only keep the main part after that if it's been marked for removal. And then the next part, it allows us, this snippet here allows us to smartly handle brackets and parentheses, so it only removes supplementary information essentially. So just like before, where it smartly marked parts for removal, this part marks the different suffixes and everything that we want to remove from a company's name. So different variations of suffixes we want to remove, and then only then it removes that part if it's clearly been marked as a suffix. Then there's prefixes as well, like handling prefixes, like the, for example. Also different generic ones you might have, like services, solutions, group, international, global. So these are different prefixes you often have in a company's name that the code handles, and then only then it removes those as well. So removes country code, so like I said, like the US and UK, Europe, things like that, which you could get in data. And then we have the punctuation, so this part removes punctuation only at the ends, so it's not removing things in the middle. You don't want to mess up structures if it doesn't have to be, but removes punctuations at the beginning and end essentially. And then the same thing here, removes and, so if there's an and symbol at the beginning or at the end, it removes those. If there's multiple spaces, this snippet removes those spaces. And then this part handles the capitalization. So some company names in data, they have certain letters that are capitalized intentionally. That's part of the branding. So we don't want to mess that up. We want to preserve that company branding for a company's name. So that's what this section allows it to do. So if it detects mixed capitalization, then it leaves it as it is and it keeps it the way it is. However, if it's all capital or capitalized, then that's what this part does, and it fixes it. Replaces the fully capitalized name for normal capitalization. Essentially, people will put fully capitalized company names if they want it to, like as if making it bold, for example. Some people do that. I don't know why. It makes our lives a bit more difficult, not anymore, but it makes a lot of people's lives difficult, but not ours. And that's that little advantage we get as well with this automation, because they're going to be receiving emails from people who don't do this and make these mistakes, but thankfully we won't ever make these mistakes again. We don't. So obviously some words are lowercased by default, so like and, or, so it doesn't capitalize those words. Always capitalize the first word. And then we have, so fixes special names. So certain Scottish or Irish names have these kind of name patterns, Muck, Kiva, or McDonald's. So you don't want to make these lowercase, so that's what this part does, and it keeps those capitalized. And so this part removes email addresses only if it's if it's not the only content. If it's just the only thing, then it won't remove it, which is good. And yeah, and so finally, just as a safety check, as a precaution, if we've removed too much and there's less than 3 characters, then we use the original. So we don't want to use things that have been overly removed, for example, just so we have at least something that makes sense there. And that, yeah, it's just a little safety check. It's better to be safe than sorry, essentially. And that's what the final part of the code does. But yeah, so I hope you understand and you can see how important this step is. It's a very small step, but it's very crucial and can be a huge nightmare doing manually. But all of our clients have this on their server, and you should find out how to do this for yourself as well. If you're thinking about unlocking scale and increasing volume, scale being an increase in magnitude, which is an increase in volume. So if you're thinking about that, then this is something that you're going to have to encounter and sort out, essentially. So yeah, I hope you found that helpful. Thanks for watching this video. Any questions, let me know. Thanks for watching, and have a good day.